Imagine you're a tiny piece of software written in the first 2 years of someone's life. You're not very sophisticated, just a few simple rules about what happens when you reach for someone and they reach back, or don't. You get installed deep in the operating system, below conscious awareness, and then you just run for decades through every friendship, every crush, every marriage, every breakup. The person carrying you has no idea you exist. They think they're making choices. But really, you're making the choices for them. This isn't a metaphor from science fiction. It's one of the most well-supported ideas in all of psychology. The way you love as an adult was largely shaped before you could even speak. And the patterns it created have a name: attachment styles. In the late 1960s, a psychologist named Mary Ainsworth wanted to see something invisible, the bond between a mother and her baby. So she designed a beautifully simple experiment called the strange situation. She put mothers and their infants in an unfamiliar room. Then she had the mother leave briefly and come back. That's it. What she watched was what happened at the moment of reunion. And what she found split the world of children into distinct categories. About 65% of the babies did what you'd expect. They got upset when mom left, and when she came back, they reached for her, calmed down, and went back to playing. Ainsworth called this secure attachment. These babies had learned a simple, powerful rule. When I need someone, someone comes. But about 20% of the babies did something strange. When mom left, they barely reacted. When she returned, they ignored her, turned away, kept playing as though nothing happened. Ainsworth called this avoidant attachment. These babies had learned a different rule. When I need someone, no one comes, so I'd better stop needing. And then there was a third group, about 15%, who became intensely distressed when mom left. And when she came back, they clung to her desperately, but also pushed her away. They couldn't be soothed. Ainsworth called this anxious attachment. Their rule was the cruelest one. Sometimes someone comes, sometimes they don't. I can never be sure, so I'd better never stop reaching. Years later, researchers identified a fourth pattern, found in about 5 to 10% of children, almost always linked to trauma, abuse, or a caregiver who was simultaneously the source of comfort and terror. It's called disorganized attachment. And these children didn't have a coherent strategy at all. They'd approach their mother and then freeze, walk toward her and then fall to the floor. Their rule was original, the most devastating. The person I need is the person I'm afraid of. 4 patterns, written early. And here's what nobody expected: they don't go away. In 1987, psychologists Cindy Hazen and Philip Shaver asked a deceptively simple question. What if romantic love is just attachment all over again? What if your partner is basically the adult version of the caregiver you reached for as a baby? They ran studies and found something remarkable. The distribution of attachment styles in adults was almost identical to what Ainsworth had found in infants. Same percentages, same patterns. Roughly 65% of adults were securely attached. About 20% were avoidant. About 15% were anxious. As if the original code had simply been copied and pasted into adulthood, with only the names of the characters changed. John Bowlby, the father of attachment theory, had predicted this. He called the mechanism internal working models, mental blueprints formed in infancy about whether you're worthy of love and whether other people can be trusted. These models don't sit in your conscious mind where you can examine them. They live deeper, in the automatic reflexes of how you respond when someone gets close or when someone pulls away. And your brain literally wires itself around them. Neuroimaging studies show that avoidantly attached people have reduced emotional processing in social situations. Their brains have actually learned to dial down feelings of connection. Anxiously attached people show the opposite: hyperactivation, especially in the amygdala, the brain's threat detector. For them, love and danger are processed through the same circuitry. The attachment style isn't just a personality quirk. It's architecture. So what does this actually look like when you're an adult trying to love another adult? If you're securely attached, relationships feel relatively natural. You can ask for help without shame. You can handle disagreements without catastrophizing. When your partner pulls away briefly, you feel a pinch, not a panic. You assume the best until proven otherwise. If you're avoidantly attached, closeness triggers a quiet alarm. You might say things like, "I need my space" a lot, not because you don't care, but because intimacy feels like a trap your nervous system learned to escape. You might keep people at arm's length and then wonder why your relationships feel empty. You associate love with losing yourself. If you're anxiously attached, distance triggers that alarm instead. A partner who doesn't text back becomes evidence of abandonment. You might engage in what psychologists call protest behaviors, picking fights, making jealous comments, threatening to leave, all as desperate, unconscious attempts to pull your partner back. You know it's destructive. You can't stop. The ancient software is running. And if your attachment is disorganized, you're caught in a loop that doesn't resolve. You want closeness desperately, and then sabotage it the moment it arrives. You might choose partners who are unavailable, even harmful, because chaos feels more familiar than safety. Research shows that this pattern often mediates the link between childhood trauma and the most destructive relationship dynamics in adulthood. These patterns aren't character flaws. They're survival strategies, brilliant adaptations by a small child who was doing the best they could with what they had. Here's where this story turns, because the most important finding in attachment research might be this one: the patterns can change. Psychologists call it earned secure attachment. It describes people who grew up insecurely attached, but managed, through therapy, through a transformative relationship, through the slow, patient work of making sense of their own story, to shift toward security. Studies suggest that somewhere between 30 and 50% of people experience a meaningful change in attachment style over their lifetime, not because they forget the past, but because they build a new relationship with it. The key ingredient seems to be something deceptively simple: coherence. Earned secure adults can talk about their childhood, even painful parts, with balance and clarity. They don't minimize the hurt, and they don't drown in it. They've developed what researchers call reflective functioning, the ability to understand that their parents were people, flawed and shaped by their own histories, and that the patterns passed down are not the final word. Your attachment style was written before you had any say in the matter, but knowing the code is running, actually seeing it, is the first step to editing it. The child who learned that no one comes when they cry doesn't have to keep living by that rule at 35. The patterns are old, but you are not the child who wrote them. You're the adult who can choose to rewrite them. Slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. The software runs, but you are not the software. Think of it like this: you are the director, not the script. Does that make sense?